All right, guys, so this one I'm going to show you some tricks on how you might go about creating some grips that look something like this, right? And so it's actually rather challenging. It's going to probably push you as an artist to grow and expand to start modeling things like this, but some of these tips will help you out a lot. That's what we're doing. So first up, when we look at a reference image, it's important to just recognize certain parts of it. The edges being a big key part of that. All these kind of sharper edges, little small bevels, curves, right? Use multiple reference images to kind of figure out, what you're creating here. Now, I've talked about modeling all this before, so I'm not going to cover the front area. But all these hard edges, this is what you want to block out for the most part. Okay. The curved sections, you don't get that same treatment necessarily. We're looking at where it stops on the side and where the bend kind of stops where it might bevel too. And those usually become edge flows doing something like that. Okay. So as you're looking at this reference, pay particular attention to that, but also where the big flat areas are can also help. Like we know this is going to be flat in this area. This is going to probably bend inwards in this way, more than likely. This is going to like taper forward, right? So we're looking for things like that, and we're kind of strategizing how we might go about creating this. So like if we need to create this big curvy section, this we can cut in later maybe. Okay. So we're thinking about things like that. I just want to point that out because it's important that you start to read your references a little bit better, and having images from the side and perspective, top, bottom, left, right, if whatever you can get a hold of is going to help you out tremendously to get the correct shapes and make like the right size edges, whether they're chamfered or beveled and things like that as well. So we're going to use this one again over here though. And I should be able to still paste it in. Let's see if that works. Yep. Control Shift V, you can paste an image in with the paste image add-on. Just going into the side views here, holding Alt while orbiting to lay it out. Rotating, holding Control. Turning grid off. Opacity, we could drop. Your viewport, sometimes when you're working with vertices a lot, it's better to use a lighter one so you can see the wires and edges and all that. Vertices. Create a plane, go into edit mode. Just going to scale it down, move it up. A big part of getting things right is identifying like the plane levels as well. So we start modeling this thing real quick. We know this is going to go somewhere here towards the back. I don't know exactly where just yet, but we can borrow things like edges, scale them, rotate them, whatever we got to do. We can grab verts. We can duplicate these and extrude them if we wanted to. But in this case, I want to just create something like this, maybe subdivide after selecting two verts. Just right click subdivide, maybe grab that little center section. If I proportional edit right now, I need to turn connected only on, so this will only be affected. See how that works? And so now I can take this and I can shoot it down later. Maybe even scale it a little bit. If we scale, we might not want to scale on X, so we do S Shift X. We do that. Okay. Possibility that happens as well. We can overextend it so we can cut it out later. And just start getting it in the right position, basically. Right proportions for the most part. And yeah, so that plane level is important. We might want to set the depth. So symmetry is here. If it doesn't do a whole lot of changes through those, but right. If I add a mirror using hard ops or machine tools or whatever, you see like, oh yeah, that's probably a little too thick, right? So whatever size you got to make, try to get it right. Okay. The goal or the strategy anyways, for things like this usually, try to keep it as simple as possible for as long as you can. If you want to use it, your vertex, root around, trace out that contour. You could do that. Okay, we can always add more vertices. We can do more stuff later on, perhaps. If we're going to have these down here, you might want to have some up here. Now, normally I would say that you want to focus on modeling the big end-gun shapes first, and then converting them into quads. You're still going to do that more than likely on the hard parts, but on curved sections, you can't get away with that. It's just not usually what happens anyways. So I'm going to extrude that in, scale it down, move it in a little. I'm going to go ahead and set, not the 3D cursor. Place Shift S 3D cursor back to the world origin. I want to control right click here, 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 here. Okay. Press F all the way around. Something like that. Eventually it'll end up with another section here. Loop cut. Merge to that. Okay. Now, sometimes you have a hard time seeing stuff. You could go up here. You could drop X-ray if you wanted to. You can also hit Z and go into wireframe. So if you want to use wireframe too, that's perfectly acceptable. We're going to have to create some kind of curvature through here. So I'm going to just do it like this for now. We're trying to make squares as well. So like this area might get a little bit finicky in here, but we need something like this in the back side, but this front side, maybe not so much. So we'd have to play that one by ear, but you can see where the resolutions kind of fluctuate now. It's like pretty dense, not as dense. This curve is going to want to start going up kind of in this manner. And then that would pull that out too far. So we'll have to get a little crafty in here, I think. Pull it all the way out for now. I often do this section like this where I just pull out an edge and then I send it to the middle. You see? So later on I can define a curve in there if needed a little bit more. Just by doing it manually. See? Little bevel basically. Something like that anyways. And if I want to grab those edges right here and extrude them and rotate them, kind of just work with them as I need them. Play with the shape there a little. Don't forget to hit Alt-Z, it still matters. Maybe fill through there, and if we do one more here, you can see where we run into an issue. I'm going to subdivide that. Grab the two, subdivide it. I'm going to cut this out here. Okay, pull it back a little bit. We're going to want to definitely take our time to get this all just right. And I'm not a big fan with this edge here, actually. So sometimes you get away with like a redirect. Or you might end up just, finding a different solution perhaps that might work out better. I don't think that worked better. So I'm going to do another cut right here. It's okay what we got going on, but I don't think it probably could be better in some way. You always have a chance to go back and make your topology even more better, correct, spaced evenly, and all that other fun stuff. Later on, you don't always have to get it perfect off the bat, right? This whole thing here, we got to start defining it. So let's just do a couple cuts in here. And then we can just move them around, line them up on this edge. A little bit of finesse here to do all this, right? Eventually these will come out. This, and line up here. Here. Let me turn this back up a little bit, actually. Oh, we're not even in solid. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I just want to see that edge or those faces a little bit better so I know I'm lining up correct, right? There, we got something like that now. And I'll go across. These will probably get pushed back a little like this. Eventually we'll cut all that out. So, you know, standard modeling kind of stuff. And we'll get into some tricks here in a little bit. That we just grab an edge, press F. There's a lot of edges coming down here trying to converge. I don't know if I care for that much. So we could try collapsing them. It's a possibility. Or we could try adding another like loop cut in here. Or maybe not. Let's do let's delete this face and then add 3 and then do that. Okay. So already we can see this is too dense in this area. Let's shift these over a little and then maybe dissolve this one. And this one we could shift back a little perhaps. We're just trying to balance it, and balance is key. It's like half the stuff you're going to do, you're just going to want to try to take your time and balance it as best as you can. And get the right shapes and curves and all that other fun stuff. Now, I know a lot of you are already looking at this and you're thinking like, oh, I've seen this before. I've done this before where I work on a model like this. And the next thing you know, like it's lumpy and it's bumpy and all kinds of other fun stuff going on. I'm going to show you, that's what's coming up next. I'm going to show you some really cool tricks on how to avoid that without using a shrink wrap and a guide mesh, although I still highly recommend doing that. And this one here, we don't want to scale it on X, perhaps, but only like S Shift X. We'll do those two. So we can just change the size of it. Extrude, change the size, extrude. Maybe we do that for a bit. Okay. And this whole section might have to like taper inwards. So I'll grab these and hit Shift H, grab this, proportional edit, set it to linear. Maybe maybe just pull it in a little bit like that. And then Alt H it back out. You see? Creates like that little bend in. So, you know, there's all kinds of little tricks like this. Easy. Turn that off. Pull that up. This one will go up to here somewhere. We'll have to merge that one to that one. These will all start going inwards, basically, right? Kind of like this, maybe. I'm going to exaggerate it, I think, but something more like that. And we could do a loop cut, FF, boom. Okay. And you're going to trial and error this. Like, it's not going to go smooth. Not the first time you do it, probably. Not the second time. Not even the third. Until you start working on more and more firearms. And if you're doing them in subdivision, at least, it's challenging. It's not the easiest of things. And you can see it's going to give you a run for your money. You got to keep things nice and neat and lined up, and you got to balance them, and you got to be very particular on what you're doing, how it's all going to work out, you know? Okay, and we're going to take this here, bring it down, rotate it. This will almost go flat. Well, it's basically going flat right there anyways. So like this whole section, I'm going to scale in. Try to line it up a little bit better. You see? What we got going on right here? I missed a piece. Whoops. Just going to merge this to here real quick. If I can get a hold of it. There you go. So just merge it last. Or you can use machine tools to do all this with Smart Vert, just pressing 1, right? It's easy. This will probably all straighten out, won't it? This little section, it's a little bit more complicated than what we're doing right now. The real one anyways, because it's actually kind of cutting down too at the same time. So this is actually like a little bit down here. I'm going to ignore that for now, but you would probably have to model the edge flows for that, right? Which one is this? This is the top, right? Okay. So I'm going to bring that out. All right. And let's just tackle the top here too. So this one's going to want to go this way and then go that way. So fill, bam. All right. And it's going to do that basically again, kind of right here. But it starts to get flatter basically, right? So we could do this all day. It gets annoying. Maybe turn on vertex snapping and then just G's or hit E, hold control. E, hold control. You see? A, merge by distance. You can do that with a lot of your edges. It's really simple. Works out really well too. So you see where this is going? Like we have control over this mesh with just our modeling tools, like our standard modeling tools. We can get quite a bit done. But there's going to be times when this just doesn't start working out, right? Like if I hit Control 2 and I subdivide it, right? Subdivision modifier. It's too soft. We got to do a bunch of more things like holding edges. Turn these off in edit mode real quick. And so we're going to have to still go through here. I wanted to snap right for some reason. Okay, what's going on here? Yeah, it just does not want to too correct, I guess. All right. Did I turn on some snapping or something? What's going on with this thing? Okay. That's not normal behavior, guys. I've hit a button somewhere. I just don't know what I've hit or where or how. Okay. Let's see if it does that again next time I try an extrusion, but that was a little odd, huh? I want to take these out. Merge that back together. And usually I would cut this out later on, but we'll cut it out right now. We'll do it in wireframe. This is a good odd chance this is actually flat or very close to flat, but because of the perspective image, it doesn't look like it. So I'm just going to cut it out wherever it sits right now. And then I'm just going to delete whatever's left over. And we might have to rework it a little bit in this area. I think that was the mirror messing it up. But anyways, so I might rework it a little bit in here. Just trying to get it going good. No, something like this maybe. No. This would want an extra edge. So I'm just going to do it like, maybe like that. That can go down. So it's all quads. It's basically, it could be maybe laid out differently, but it should work for us. We'll shift that around a little. Okay. When this subdivides, we still need edges in here, right? So this can get a little bit tricky because you might have to do, I don't know, like here we can just do a loop cut and we can shift these things up, right? But it's on a curve, and usually when you do that and you have a subdivision mesh, it flattens it out in that area. It doesn't look as good. So there's an add-on that you can get, which is set edge flow add-on. You just set flow on the edges when you select them. So like this one and this one, maybe. You do edge flow, set flow, boom. Like that. That makes it look nicer, basically. That's what I was getting at with that one. And other times you just want to maybe shift things around too. You don't always have to maybe do like a new loop cut in there or something. Might be able to just shift it around. Other times you might want to do a loop cut. You just do a loop cut and you hit E and then you hit F. You can do something like this. You don't always have to do 3 edges for a bevel. You can sometimes get away with this. So it just tightens up this inner corner here, perhaps, right? And then like the top of this got tightened up as well. Shouldn't be too bad on that one. Now, because we did it that way on that, this, maybe we set flow on it. Maybe it makes it look nicer, Who knows? So it's got like that chamfered effect, which sometimes looks really cool when you're designing things and whatnot. But other areas, yeah, we're still probably going to have to try out different ideas or things, and it happens. Like this one, maybe an extra edge would also be useful. But then because of that reason, this one here needs to be balanced better. Right? F2 add-on. You grab a vertex and hit F, it'll do that. Not too bad. It's pretty flat looking though overall. All right. But it's getting there. It's on its way. This isn't quite the right shape in here, perhaps. This could be probably more than likely fixed with balancing, right? So a lot of times you can just fix things with balancing. See this dips here? We don't really want that effect. We might be able to get another loop cut in here. Do that. And then maybe balance this section out. Set flow on that. See if that helps. But we're trying to create little squares, little quads everywhere that are perfect. So sometimes this kind of stuff can hurt you. Just keep that in mind. Let's turn this off a second. Let's see. Oh no, we won't do that area. At some point, you got to do the, like the back and possibly like the interior side as well. That's really going to push you to your limits there, right? If you start doing all that. This needs to get tightened up at some point. We do have vertex creasing, which sometimes helps on things like this, but sometimes it causes like really bad issues, so be careful. You can also try edge creasing, perhaps, right? If you had it extruded it, maybe like that. That's a possibility. Now, the main thing here, though, is that you would want to finish out the whole piece as much as possible, doing it kind of like this, right? And you would want to add that kind of curvature that you want everywhere as well. So if you want this to be more curved here, like you already know where that's going to go. We Shift H it, grab that center point, turn on the proportional edit, maybe set it to sphere or something. We can kind of move it out a little bit, right? And then Alt H it, and boom. We get this kind of result, perhaps. Might have to readjust this side here. Turn that off. Right. But this is where you guys usually run into problems, right? Like you model something, you spend a lot of time on it, you're like, oh man, this thing's great, but it's not looking the way I expected it to look, right? Like something's wrong with it. It's like lumpy, and it's got all kinds of weird stuff going on. This is normal. Um, the more you run into this issue, the better off you'll be. You'll be a stronger artist. Be able to fix these kinds of things. But there's tricks to it. And that's what this video is about, is trying to get you used to this idea of using different tools to fix these issues. Thought I just saw something weird. I did not. All right, so first things first, when you have a surface that's not quite perfect, and you're like, man, I want to make this better. Control Shift clicking through there, perhaps. You want to pick very specific faces for this in certain areas. But you can do things like pull them out a little, scale them up a little, perhaps. And the reason for this is if you hit Control V and use smooth vertices, it will smooth it down, right? But it shrinks it the more you do it, right? See that? So it'll kind of flatten it out at a certain point. So you got to be careful with that one, but you'll smooth vertices. We'll reset to default values. But you can smooth a lot by hitting like Shift R. Well, you can use a repeat too, but I hit Shift R a lot of times and do this number. But we lose volume. We lose our shape a little bit. So I might just do that and scale it back up, move it around. You see where we're going with this? And then I'll do it again. And then I'll try to get it all nice and neatly lined up again. Right? Maybe I lost a little bit of that curve. I can hit S, X, and I can scale like this too. Right? So it kind of forces it back out that way. Or you can try Alt S. You see? A lot of cool little things you can do with your geo. That's one of them. Just one of them anyways. It's not in the right areas necessarily, like everything's kind of been shifted around. You can go into sculpt mode, guys. You can use slide relax. You can try to shift things around with that maybe. Okay. Slide relax tries to preserve the volume, although if you go over a sharp edge, it's going to get soft, just so you know. But you can do that to try to fix things. You can also hold shift and just do a regular relax, or turn the strength down with Shift F. But you can hold shift and you can work these things down, or you can relax them so they become more evenly spaced. Sometimes that helps the balancing, that helps your overall model, right? Other times you can use a regular smooth tool, low strength, and it's just going to flatten the surface. It's a Laplacian smooth. You can go through it and you can just Laplacian smooth it. It's the same as literally grabbing vertices or whatever and then smooth the Laplacian. It's the same thing. So when you do this, you do a lot of it. Maybe do a bigger patch real quick. You'll see that what it's going to do is it does this, right? So that's the same thing smoothing in sculpt mode does, basically. But smooth vertices is still super powerful. Just be very careful with it. But yeah, your sculpting tools, right? Like that's one of the secrets. You can use these all day long. You want to smooth? You don't need a graphics tablet to use them necessarily. You can smooth things. If you want to go through and adjust in edit mode and go back to sculpt mode, you can. You have the grab tools. You have elastic grab, which is nice. Spins like the whole mesh around. You have the regular grab tool. Problem with this is it doesn't usually do the center. You can do the center and go all the way through the mesh by turning it to projected. So if it was on sphere by default, you'll see it only does the outer section. But projected will go all the way through. Yeah. You can start moving things around, balancing them again if needed. Just be extra careful with what you're doing. It's a lot of fun though. And it does tend to work out. It's usually the best way of doing that, in my opinion. Now, these little guys down here, like these like boundary edges, if you would, of the hard edges and whatnot, you got to do these manually. Generally, you want to do them manually. You still have the option of using machine tools. You can use Alt A and like do straightens, for example, if you need to. or align to, I don't know, the left or the right, perhaps, right? Loop tools, you can do things like relax. You can do spacing, which is kind of interesting. Well, it doesn't really make sense on this one. But you get the idea. And you just move them around too. So, bring those out a little bit more. Maybe these got to come out a little bit more. Push and pull verts, guys. It's still very doable, and it doesn't always give you like terrible results if you're careful, basically, right? Just by balancing. Okay. Now, so this piece, like most people struggle with it, right? It's a pretty hard piece, but it's not really that bad once you know these things, right? You can also average things like I want to make this a flat, almost a flat area, or I want to flatten this out more. Like I want to move it in a little bit. So Alt S will go in and out, but I want to get it just right, or like an averaged. So I can GG twice, go here, GG twice, go here. It's going to kind of start flattening that area perhaps. Okay. Now you can see the flattening effect. If you don't want the flattening effect, just use the set flow out on and get it back basically real quick. You can see. Nice, right? So really cool. And you would do the whole thing, guys. I mean, this is a big polymer piece. It's the bottom here. It's the grip. It's the trigger well or the trigger guard. And there's cuts in this as well, like up here, that you might end up having to do. So if you're going to be doing game models, high poly to low poly bakes, make what is visible for the model, obviously, in the game environment. So if it's a weapon deconstructed on a workbench or something, you're going to have to do quite a bit of work. But animation wise, the slide and the receivers are usually, two different parts. All kinds of fun things you got to think about, like, how the slide and this meets up with each other. And there'll be asymmetrical too. So it's going to be very hard to work out. But if you can start a base shape like this is the main thing. It helps a lot. Because at a certain point, I'm going to apply that mirror real quick. And then the subdivision, you can take it up. This is why you want those little squares, right? Because you can take it up 1 or 2 levels, perhaps. Turn optimal display off. You see where it's going? You don't want little rectangles usually, okay? If you can avoid it. It's not always possible. So take it up 1, apply it, we can go back and we can keep working on this now. It gets harder to deal with though as you go up in resolution and you're trying to make those kinds of like minute little changes everywhere on like a big surface, but you still have the ability to like go through here and yeah, maybe you do smooth more, or maybe you do go to sculpt mode and you try just using a regular smooth tool or the relax tool even. Like you can just get in here and make things happen basically. You can also move this around with the slide relax tool, right? It will mess up your shading a little bit if you're not careful. So be very deliberate with what you're fixing. Try to get it right before you apply a subdivision. And keep moving with it, right? What's great about this is that some of you probably know this. You've watched my other videos maybe, but I think the greatest part about this is that if you create really good quad subdivision mesh and you're very deliberate with that form and that shape that you're creating, certain details you wait for later. So like this little indent here that's triangular in this area, we could do this now when it's much denser. We don't have to do it beforehand. Same with this little section back here, perhaps, right? With texture and all that. So that little hole that would be in here, I mean, it's a possibility. Like, look, we got a much denser mesh now, right? Maybe just inset, and hold control, and inset again. So if we subdivide again, right, we get that. So that's good. Could we cut out a little triangular piece in here? More than likely, yes, but you don't have to. You can go to sculpt mode, get rid of your subdivision, and just hit like control 1, 2, 3, and go to the density that works best for you. I'm going to keep it a little bit low while recording, but when you're using a multi-res, yeah, I mean, you can just come in here and use like the mask tool, and we're using sphere, so it only works on one side, but you could use projected if you want to go all the way through, or you could turn on symmetry even, right, if you wanted to. I don't think this is even symmetrical, so I'm not going to do it like that, but if I want to go through here and just start masking this area out, and take your time with this. I'm going to go a little bit too fast, I think, but take your time with it. Go through, mask it out appropriately. Fill the whole area. All right. We'll Z that off. You want to be very precise with this. There's no like redos. Well, I mean, kind of is if you're careful, but because you could use the, it's a multi-res. You can use the multi-res eraser. So there's, but if you're doing lots of sculpting, like layer on layer on layer of sculpting, like plane level changes, the multi-res will just start erasing everything. So you don't get like layers, you know. I'm gonna smooth this with the mask tool, pressing A, smooth the mask pie menu. Anyways, turn that off. We can crank it up or down as needed. I don't want to go too crazy with that. I'm just going to increase contrast now. And you can see we can get it really sharp, or we can leave it a little softer. I'm going to leave it a little bit soft. A, invert mesh filter, set it to inflate if it isn't already. You can maybe push that in like that by inflating, which works out well usually. I think it needs to be a little softer. All right. So we don't get as much distortion in it. We could do that, or we could use the move tool and then just shift right click, boom, and then move it in. Right. This one's fun because you can also scale it, and then you can go back to move and you can kind of shift it around. You see where I'm going at? So however you choose to do that, it's kind of up to you, but you do it at a high enough resolution where you don't get this aliasing effect, and use a really clean mask with it. It's going to work out really well. But that's how you're going to do things like that, right? So should work out really well anyways. I think I need one more subdivision level. And if I do that now, I should end up with a 3 million, I think. Yep. So that actually might smooth it a little bit as well. But I might have to go clean it up. So you're still going to use your smooth tool and whatever else you have in here available to you. Draw sharp, crease, all your sculpting tools, guys. But you might be able to fix some of this up when it doesn't come out just right. This one I'm not so sure about, though. With just smoothing, I'm not so sure about. You just redo it if you had to. Multi-res eraser will erase, right? So just keep that in mind. Turns off in object mode. Previews when you subdivide, or when you multi-res. When you're in sculpt mode and you hit Control 1 through 5, it does a multi-res instead of subdivision. But it sets the preview at 0, so just keep that in mind. Yeah, but basically, we can do really subtle, minor effects and changes and stuff. It's really cool. You can use brush smoothing if you want. Stabilized stroke. You can do projected. So like this whole area here, maybe there's like a little line in here, right? Probably going to get this wrong, but basically you don't want to zoom in and out once you start, okay? And mine got real jumpy for some reason. I'm also doing projected, so I go all the way through the side, just so you know. Ooh, that was a bad one. And it's definitely going to be a little bit questionable here, but we'll have to clean up some of it, maybe. Like that terrible stroke right there. Let me go this way. I don't know why I'm doing so bad at this right now. I don't like the lazy mouse setup. Like, I usually use Lazy Mizumi for this. Lazy mouse is actually really accurate when you get used to using it, though. But you can see I'm a little bit off. I'm gonna pull that in straight at first, and then I'm gonna tip it down a little. Otherwise, it might do a little weird on the front side. All right. So you see now, I believe this one's recessed, but these ones don't look as recessed. It's kind of weird. Huh? Anyways, we're just gonna press A, invert, smooth, change the amount of smoothing as needed, increase contrast, and then bump that around as needed as well. So I know I'm not gonna get a perfect result here, but mesh filter inflate would work well. Okay, you see I'm all wavy and stuff. It's gonna inflate and push it in. Change it to smooth. I'm just gonna smooth it back out a little. That's all. I'm not doing anything fancy here for this one, guys. And we can clear that mask. And so, yeah, basically you do this, you know, higher resolution as needed. Smaller brush, obviously. This is way too wrong. But yeah, you could do things like this all day. Okay. So here's another little trick though. Alt Shift A, just bring it out to where you need it basically. Okay. Now normally you don't really need to do high frequency sculpting like textures on your sculpts in Blender. You can do it in Substance Painter, right? You can even do it in Blender with a normal map. You can hand paint a height map. But we're just going to sculpt anyways. Sometimes it is useful, I guess, to know how. This tool does not go onto the reverse side as well. For whatever reason, it doesn't mirror. So just keep that in mind. Something like this for now, you know, be more precise with it. The main thing here is I'm going to shrink it, smooth it, bump up the smoothing amount, increase contrast perhaps. And if I need to go back through and like manually select things, I would. Okay. Smooth it like that for now. And we'll use the draw tool. The draw tool, we can use a texture. So we could click new here perhaps, or we can come down here, click new. We'll say this is going to be our clouds. Change it to clouds. And we can go to colors and increase like the contrast and brightness and stuff. Or increase and decrease. And we can change the size, make it smaller. All right. A, invert, there we go. This is the regular draw tool. And right now it's set to do area plane. But we can use 3D if we wanted to, which is really cool. You can see we can come in here, we can add texture to it, right? I want to be a little bit more deliberate here, though. I'm going to use anchored and do this, okay? Now, anchored's really cool, except you can see when it goes onto the backside here, it gets all messed up. You may want to do this as separately, right? Like in a different view or something, maybe. Or like a different mask setup or whatever. But we can also try maybe doing... No, I don't want to do that. We can do spacing and set it to area plane perhaps. Is that high enough frequency? I think it is. I think that looks okay. It creates a nice result. I think we can roll with that. Yeah. So perfect? No, absolutely not. But you'd be surprised what what you can do, you know, like when you really play around with the tools, you start to understand, you know, why it's so important to do good topology sometimes. This is probably one of the better ways of working in Blender, in my opinion. It's one of the most challenging, but it's, you know, you can use it on all kinds of stuff. So whether it's like whatever, any kind of 3D model, you can make a really nice blockout or subdivision mesh and then multi-res sculpt on it, and that's your high. And I'm not, maybe you have to go back through and retopple it or coal a bunch of stuff to make it a low, but still very doable. And we're not done. We can absolutely 100% come back through here and use either the grab tool or the elastic tool or whatever. Elastic grab, maybe. So if I want to nudge things around, you see, that's a possibility. Maybe I fix this little waviness, you know? Might be affecting that side too much, though. That one's going to be hard to eyeball, I think, but doesn't mean it's impossible. You see? Maybe that's not quite right, you know? Actually, I don't even know if I could fix that one now. That'd probably be better if that was tweaked before we did it, right? That front one. We could definitely mask certain areas and just work in certain areas as well. Nothing that stops us from doing that. Regular grab tool also works really well. So, I mean, this one, let's turn on symmetry and turn it to sphere. Yeah, this one tends to create a little bit more of a waviness to things. So you got to change the size as well quite regularly. Anyways, right. So that little mag release you would just do as a separate model. And that's the trick with grips, guys. If you can avoid modeling everything by hand and start practicing doing some of these like high poly sculpts, you know, do that. I mean, it's going to save you a lot of frustration, and it'll allow you to finesse things in ways that you're not used to, but still super useful to do it, right? Try not to like do mirrors or symmetrizes after using multi-res. You can, it does work sometimes, but it doesn't always work out quite the way you would have expected, maybe. Sometimes it can be like a breaking error that causes or happens or whatever. It causes a breaking error, like breaks your model or breaks your Blender file or something. Crashes Blender sometimes. Yeah, you can still try to tweak things too. I mean, that generally goes okay as long as you're not like merge inverts. Usually you're okay, or shifting things too much. But yeah, you would cut out the back. Just another tip here, real quick. When you if you have like an interior side of it and an exterior, and you have an actual physical hole here and all that, use face sets, okay? And when you create an object like this, I'm just gonna quickly initialize them by just their normals, real quick. All right. Well, that's the only one that's generated for now, I guess. But when you have face sets, you just press H, it'll hide it. Shift H brings it back. Shift H on it, hides everything else. So you would like Shift H the main body on the outside, so you don't mess up the interior perhaps, right? But you don't want to do any dramatic changes on the outside here. Just really minor surface level type stuff. So that way you don't have them crossing over each other, right? Kind of the easy way of doing it anyways. You can also try using it to, because I forgot to tighten these up. You can also try tightening some areas up with some of the sculpting tools. It might work out well for you. There's a good odd chance you'll want to go through though, and before you do any of that multi-res stuff, you'll just tighten them up manually. And you can add loop cuts and stuff if you're not worried about sculpting just yet. So then you can, you know, work them out basically, however you need it. If it's not working out quite the way you want, just smooth vertices, right? Boom. You see, we can do just amazing stuff now. Once we understand how to work this way, right? Is the possibilities, the limits, they don't exist no more. You can make anything you want. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll check you out in the next one. All right, take care.